Like there's some practices there.
Yeah, well, they always say, sportsmen do well in business, and I think it's just that work ethic. To get to the top of any sport, really, you've got to have a good work ethic. You've got to be.
G'day and welcome to the Farms Advice podcast with your host, Jack Creswell. Whether you farm it, service it, or just love it, this podcast is for you. We'll bring you the techniques and technologies you can implement into your day straight from the leaders and innovators themselves. Spread the Farms Advice so that we can reach more farmers right across Australia. Follow us on all of your socials at Farms Advice, and let's get into this episode. It's a crisp morning here in Orange, New South Wales, and for the man that played professional rugby league for Parramatta Titans and also the beloved Chooks. It's great to have Daniel Mortimer on the podcast. Now, he's gone back to the family business, Mortimer's Wines, in a job where he can go from driving a tractor through to selling the product and pouring wine for customers in their wine tasting. It's been a bit of a full circle for Daniel and his young family, moving back to the place where he grew up after his father, Peter, wound up his 11-season career at the Bulldogs. Now, this is a two-part series. We'll have Daniel, the new generation, coming on to the Farms Advice podcast to tell us a little bit about his angle of returning to the family business. And then the next episode, we'll talk to Peter Mortimer, also playing NRL, Australian Rugby League back in the day for the Bulldogs in the 70s and 80s, but we'll be joined with Peter in the other episode. So stay tuned for this one. Plenty of elements to get out of this and take it home as a key takeaway anyway. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Farms Advice podcast. Great to be surrounded by your vineyards, Daniel, and great to have you on the podcast today.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, nice to have you here at our place.
Absolutely. The first sort of video podcast we've done as well, but great to get an understanding. Sheep farmers, they may want to know what vineyards get up to within their day, but tell us a little bit about yourself, your connection, and how'd you get into this role?
Yeah, the last few years, I grew up here. Me and my brothers helped plant these vines right here. So 1995, we planted the vines. So grew up on the winery, and a lot of work, obviously, especially establishing a vineyard. It's a lot of output for the first 5 years with zero reward until you start to get fruit. So it definitely takes some patience and some long sight, which Dad had, thankfully, at the time. But the last 3.5 years, I've come home after being away for a while and slipped back on the farm with Dad, helping him out, and really enjoyed being back. I didn't really enjoy it as a kid. We all moved away as quick as we could, but now being at this stage of my life, loving the farm life, and it's a nice industry, the wine industry.
Yeah, I think as kids off a farm, we get sucked back into the vortex of coming back to the family farm, and actually when we're adults, we sort of tend to enjoy it a little bit more as well. You sort of found that on the family farm?
Yeah, definitely. Look, it's always been home. Wherever I've been sort of, footy's taken me all around the world, but I've never been away from here for longer than a couple of months. It's always been home, and I love showing the place off and bringing friends back, and it's probably inevitable to come back. Out of the 5 boys, 3 of us have come back home. We all left, but
right.
There's a lot of us come back. It's a nice lifestyle. It's nice to enjoy this time of your life with some space and some land and something that you're passionate about.
Absolutely. With the flexibility paired with how beautiful it is around here, you can't not come back. Maybe just that orange breeze would keep you away, I think.
The winter gets a bit long here, I'll admit that. But luckily there's no bad weather to drink wine in. You have a nice sparkling on a summer's day, or you tuck up in front of the fire with a nice red. So we're not the worst industry to be in winter. Absolutely.
But before we get down to some agribusiness, tell us, for the footy fans out there, I'm a bit of a Chooks fan myself, and that's where I know you from, but what's your background in footy?
Yeah, so obviously, Dad and his brothers all played through the 80s with the Bulldogs. They were very successful there. So, look, and I'm one of 5 boys, so it was all, we were sort of destined to go into footy at least. Started in the backyard, and we all played for a long time. 2 of my brothers played reserve grade for a number of years, so nearly made the NRL. I was fortunate enough to go on and have probably a 9-year 9 or 10 year career professionally, which I feel very fortunate. Came through the Eels in 2009, which was a bit of a whirlwind year, and then obviously jumped across with the Chooks, where I finally won a comp there in 13. And had a little stint at the Titans and overseas in the Super League. So Dad warned me it would go quick, and he was right. It flew by, but he also said when you retire, the majority of your working life is in front of you. So you've got to find something that you're passionate about and that fulfills that purpose that footy did, because footy was all I wanted to do since I was 4, and Dad was the same. But all of a sudden, it's a short career in terms of sports. You're 30 odd, and all of a sudden you think, all right, what next? You still hopefully still got a long time to live, so I've got to find something else that's going to fill that void.
Yeah, I thought that would be probably the biggest one, and it is currently the biggest one for, you see the presenters or whatever, ex-NRL coming up, and they've got their role, but what's the other 99% of people going to do?
Yeah, and 1%, if that, go into making a living out of footy, either coaching or presenting. 99%, they've got to go and find something to do. I've had a lot of friends. I'm at that age now where a lot of friends have gone back and are really struggling with finding a purpose as well. It's a very regimented life, and when you move up when you're 17, 18, and you're told what to eat, where to be, what to do, it's just your life's worked out for you. You just got to turn up and make sure you're doing the right things. Whereas all of a sudden, you retire, or you retire through injury or through your own decisions, and all of a sudden there's it's a big world out there that you can't rely on staff or coaches to set your life out. So it's daunting. I did a teaching degree while I was playing. And I taught for 3 years, but then worked my way back into the farm and enjoying that.
Fantastic. And I had the question before, what did you bring from footy, like that regiment, that routine that you had that tell people telling you where to go and whatnot? What did you bring from footy back to the family farm, do you think? There's some practices there?
Well, they always say, sportsmen do well in business, and I think it's just that work ethic. To get to the top of any sport, really, you've got to have a good work ethic. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to be motivated. So a lot of those skills are transferable. I've seen it with Dad, and starting to see it with myself. It's not something that you sit down and think about, but it's just sportsmen. To get to that top, you have to have those traits, and you can apply them. You should apply them to all parts of your life, and that's where obviously working back on the farm. It's we're hard workers. It's not the glamorous lifestyle that a lot of city people come out and think, I could start a winery. It's easy. Not all serving and drinking wine down the cellar door, that's for sure. But that's what the hard work is. What makes that more rewarding. So
100%. And within your 3 years now, your GM, what's that role entail for a local winery around Orange? For domestic, but also maybe international.
It's a very diverse job. That's what I enjoy about it. Like I said, we planted the vines, so we do everything right from the grapes, and then our wines get made in Mudgee, and Dad and I will travel to Mudgee to use Simon Gilbert's facilities over there. We use his infrastructure, but we also use his advice. He's a fifth generation winemaker, so we take his advice seriously. But ultimately Dad makes the decisions. I'm there to bounce off him as well. And then we get it in a bottle and we serve it to our consumers. So you have to wear a lot of hats in this game, but that's what I really enjoy about it. I don't know if I could do any of those jobs full time by themselves, but by the time you finish one, there's something else to do, and you get that invigoration about the next job when it's come, because you're never stuck too long doing the same thing.
A bit like footy, you've got to keep your feet and hands pretty busy.
You do, it's always, and you always got to be learning. The game changes, just like footy. The game changes quickly, and viticulture as well. It changes. You got to be up with the times. In terms of as well, marketing, having a social presence and community. It's you got to be up with all the changing technology. Because if you don't, you get left behind. And it's
in and out of the fields as well.
Yeah, exactly. Both in the field. There's always.
Do you call them fields or paddocks?
Just vineyards. Vineyards. There's always new ways to do viticulture. There's always new products out to use. So you got to be on top of that to get the best quality fruit. And then obviously there's the whole marketing and business part, which you got to be on top of too.
So tell us a little bit about the vineyard, where we've got the nets off in this one. What's this one behind us?
So this is the Chardonnay. This is the very first vineyard we planted.
Yep.
1995. And yeah, the nets are off this one. We harvested the Chardonnay about 2 weeks ago. So we all the other reds are all still netted, so the birds don't get into them.
Yep.
Yeah, this came off and it was a really good crop this year. It was a bigger yield than we expected and a really clean fruit. We had quite a good year. Very cool year leading into Christmas.
Yep.
All the vines were behind bud burst probably 6 weeks, which is a bit concerning.
Okay. Yeah.
But January, February and first half of March have been quite warm and quite dry, so the fruit's caught up, and it's been one of those years where you can fortunately bit of hands off and let nature do its course. We haven't had to use many, if any, controls. Which is ideal. Yeah,
that's the beauty of it. And at the moment, from this getting picked, how long will that happen to be a bottle?
Yeah, so we just got this black Shiraz that we have here.
Yep.
That's 2021 vintage.
Yep.
And we got it back about 10 weeks ago. So after it's harvested here, it'll travel straight to Mudgee. It'll get crushed and pressed and fermented, which will take a couple of weeks. And then we'll select oak barrels to age it in.
Yep.
And we can age it in oak barrels anywhere from usually 8 to 18 months.
Yep.
Usually the whites are sort of 8 to 12 months. And our reds are 12 to 18 months, depending on what we're looking for in the wine. So, it's a long process, but
certainly
it is nice to get a wine back. Like I said, you get one back recently, and it was from 2 vintages ago.
Yep.
So it's a long process, but that's the game.
Going back to yield, every farmer wants to improve their yield. How do you measure it within a vineyard? Is it a percentage of what you get off?
Yeah, usually, we'll always weigh and record our tonnage in yield, and there's measurements you can do in the vine in terms of counting bunches in bays and to get estimates for your yield. But look, it's sort of the yield. Really, it's the grapes are set nearly as soon as bud burst hits. So when bud burst hits and the grapes are just shooting, they've already got their fruit set. Everything's sort of in there. It's just up to you to control and not lose that fruit through birds, pests, or diseases or fungi. So it's a hard one to always know what yield you're going to get. Some have really surprised us. You get a general idea based on the season, but ideally for yield, wet winters and dry summers are ideal. Wet winters, the ground's full of nutrients and moisture, and then the nice dry summers to ripen up the fruit. We've got a dam, we irrigate the vines when need be.
And with the different varieties, are you seeing different yields with that as well?
Yeah, definitely, So there's our Shiraz is usually quite a big yield. The bunches are bigger and bolder, so they contain a lot more weight and a lot more juice, whereas the Pinot Noir tends to be a lower yielding variety. So the grape bunches themselves are a bit longer and a bit less dense. And that's the story with the Cabernet too. So they all change from year to year, but also you know what to expect. The Chardonnay's sort of in your middle line, but you get some, what to expect with the yields usually.
Beautiful. And going into farm operations, it's great to see who's working here and how's that operationally sort of work for you, from picking to pruning to putting out some fungicides, herbicides or something to keep them sort of, I don't know, how's it work within the vineyards?
Yeah, so Dad and I will do 90% of the viticulture here, the work in the vines. We'll get some workers in to help with the big jobs, so obviously harvesting, we can't go through and harvest it all by hand ourselves. We harvest everything by hand. It just ensures that we pick the best quality. But we get harvesters in, 20 or 30 come through and they'll usually knock over a vineyard in a day. And pruning as well, it's a big job. So Dad and I hook into it, and then if we need a bit of a hand to get it finished, we'll get some contractors in to help that. But apart from that, all the maintenance, all the other jobs, spinning the canopies, spraying, all that's done by mostly Dad, but myself too. But me coming on board, I'm sort of taking on a little bit more of the cellar door and sales role, and Dad's loving it because he gets to spend more time with his baby, which is the vineyard.
With his hands. And that was my next one, going into maybe a bit of agritourism, swinging people out from Sydney and further abroad. How's that been for you? Look,
COVID's been a bit of a blessing. It was a bit scary at the start because we don't service bottle chains and all the during COVID, all the bottle chains killed it because no one could go and be social.
Probably saved you as well, no?
Drink at home. Yeah, well, then in those, between those lockdowns, because especially Sydney siders couldn't travel overseas or interstate, they were flocking out here. And so we went from sort of zero business to all of a sudden, processing 100 odd customers a day. And it was a struggle, but, you're welcome. It was nice to have that exposure. It gave Orange and regional places that exposure to Sydney that we probably hadn't had for a while, and now we get a lot of people from Greater Sydney coming back because they've been here, they loved it. They're bringing their friends.
And they recommend it to the next sort of line coming through.
So it's all in all, it was a really good outcome for I think regional towns.
And you've got B&Bs here as well. People can come here and stay and experience the vineyard for its true self. That all throughout the year. We have a combination block on the Chardonnay here, which is very popular. I think we built that in around 2012. I think so quite recent, but it's another avenue stream, a bit more of a secure revenue stream in terms of. I'm guessing on farm, and a lot of farmers, it'll apply to a lot of farms, is you do have to hedge your bets in different areas. You can't necessarily go all in on one because that bites you in the butt, then it's cost you. So the more revenue streams you can open, the more security you have, I guess, and then you pick the best ones and you roll with that. And our accommodation's been a great investment for us. 100%. And being the younger generation on farm, I'll ask your old man this later, but what sort of technology is on the farm and what's helping you sort of save time, but save money, but also make a bit more money as well?
Well, we've really grown as a business with more machinery and equipment as well. We used to net our net. We got to net the vines here, otherwise the birds just go to town.
So it used to be manual sort of shape.
We used to have a net each side of the row, and you used to have to sort of go through and push them up, and then you go through. I think we went through about 18,000 paddle pop sticks each year, and you'd weave the paddle pop sticks above the row, and so the birds couldn't get them. Just net them through. So that was a huge job, and now Dad's got a net machine, which you get a big net. The tractor goes up with a big arch, and the net rolls over 4 rows in one. It takes us probably 2.5 hours to do the Chardonnay. Whereas the old style netting would have taken weeks. Look, and that's where Dad didn't have a lot of money at the start, so that you got to do what you can in your budget as well. There's a few things like that's been very beneficial. And obviously down at our cellar door as well, there's point of sale systems, wine club processes. There's a lot of things like that which really help that sales side, which saves a lot of time. Which is where I'm sort of coming in and doing a lot of work
and picking that up. So how's the wine club going?
Really good. We have about 250 plus members, and look, they pretty much saved us through COVID because we couldn't really operate, but we had 2 of our wine clubs going out, so that sort of kept us afloat through those tough times. And look, our members get looked after. We put some lovely wines away for them and release them later vintages. So but it's another different revenue stream for our business that doesn't require getting out on the road doing sales. They're in the club, and it's just our job to keep them there. So if we keep making good wine.
Now you finished this episode, you can go ahead and listen to Peter's episode, The Older Generation. This Farms Advice episode does not stop here. Come and join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, and even join our Facebook group. Go to farmsadvice.com.au for more on this episode and spread the hashtag FarmsAdvice to your mates. If you can leave a review on Apple or Spotify, that will let other farmers find us too. But until then, see you next Tuesday.